All right, so I'm going to start us connecting to Facebook Land live on Facebook.
Is this like inside of your group or just live?
Yeah, inside the group so that I'll tell you why later.
Yeah, I got it.
So she can save it all and build content.
No, I'm recording. I'm recording right now. People say nice things.
Nice things.
Nice things.
Nice things.
Yeah.
Preparing.
Oh my God,
Tony's still trying to figure out what's going on down there, I think.
Here we go. Failure. All right, I'm going to go live.
I'm failing at this.
Oh, sheesh.
Jeez, guys. This is special.
We're getting there. Okay.
Yeah.
You're on there. Do you see us? I'll keep an eye on Facebook Land. And hey, guys, we're live. It's Jenny Wolek with Wolek Group in Tulsa, Oklahoma, here with my friends to share some awesome failures with everyone. If you have any questions for us, I'm peeking over here, so please feel free to share them. And let's just have everyone introduce themselves, and some are still getting settled. Tony Baroni. And so, Josh, you can start. You're in my top left, and we can go around the circle.
Perfect. What are we introducing? Just
yourself.
Okay. Josh Anderson in Nashville, Tennessee.
All right. Tim Houk in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Jess Starr in Simsbury, Connecticut.
And Tony Baroni has taken off for a minute, and he may come back. He's from Tampa, Florida, and I'm from Tulsa. And so today's live show is all about our agent success secrets, and the topic is failure. And it's pretty funny because I think, not funny, that we all have so many failures, and we actually know that they are just stepping stones to super duper success, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. Some of us more than others.
Are you pointing at Jess or who?
Nashville.
I see nothing, all right?
I screwed everything up, okay? I own it. Perfect. I don't care.
All right, so let's see about getting started here on our topic. Did you guys all come up with some failures? And let's kind of do it in different layers if you can. So I'm thinking let's start with our early days. So when you were a single agent just getting in the business category, to make sure that that helps out agents that are at that level. And then maybe as you started building a team, some failures that went into that category. And then now, what are we still failing at? How about that? Jess seems to not have great connection, so we're going to put her last. So let's start with just one at a time, kind of during your early days. What were some of your big failures?
I can go. I think early on, I would say starting at like year 2, because I don't know on year 1. I mean, I'm sure there were plenty of failures, but I think some of my failures are the same things that I'm dealing with and doing now, which, you know, I'd say hiring is an ongoing, forever failing forward. So, you know, lots of bad hires. And I think a lot of those bad hires were based on, and we can all probably agree that when we are ready to hire somebody, we hire too fast, and we usually need them like 6 months before we're actually looking to hire. And I think that we as agents do a bad job of onboarding and training. We just like stick somebody in a position and don't typically do a great job of really making them or helping them understand like why they're doing what they do. And we're out in the field selling houses, and I think that ultimately we get busy and we just kind of throw things over our shoulders and expect them to do it, and we don't give them a whole lot around the idea of what and why they're doing it. So,
if I could piggyback on that just a little bit, I taught a class yesterday in the Market Center, and I think as an individual agent or, you know, new agent, we're not looking at the business models of following, 29.2% per expense, 29% cost of sale, which in the beginning is what you should pay yourself. If you had 40% profit set aside, that wouldn't have been an issue. And so I kind of failed forward with them yesterday in the class, and it was very valuable, and it was just very impactful. I think my biggest failure in the beginning was not following in the footsteps of others, trying to get creative and do things the way that I thought they should be done, or how I thought it would work better. And not that creativity is a crutch in this industry, but if you can, success leaves clues. If you can follow in the footsteps of people who've done it before you, and then maybe try to improve on it. For example, I didn't have a CRM until started in April 2006. It took the market crashing and me really questioning what was going on in the world for me to understand that I didn't have a business. And I got my CRM in October of 2008. I got top producer, $35 a month. And I bought the Red Book. So for a $45 investment in October of 2008, my world really started to change after that. So 24 months of trying to do it on my own was probably not the right move.
Yeah, that's good. Jessica, you got something? Can she hear us?
Or you can hear us, we can't hear her.
Jess, you're muted. Okay.
Yeah, and I think going along with what Tim said and just kind of some of the things.
I hear you.
Oh, perfect. Do you want to talk now? So I think other things. One of the things Tim said about the percentages, but I think on the start.
Do you see me now?
Okay, so.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell Jess that's bad.
Okay. So I think on the front end, like we're kind of conditioned from school of being employees. And I think one of the things that I remember early on was like putting all the money back into the business and then not knowing from a percentage standpoint how much to set aside for taxes and how much to set aside. It took me a couple years before I read the Red Book. The MREA. And so, yeah, it was one of those things that I remember in like 2008, my CPA or accountant being like, yeah, you made more money this year. You owe X amount. And I was like, I don't know where that money's coming from. So I think it's that. And I think it's just building the bench constantly, no matter how big or where your team is, kind of layering in the amount of people that you want so you don't get the job back. And you don't really understand that until you have to rebuild 2 or 3 or 4 times. So. Yeah.
Well, I'll share that my early days, I definitely never, ever saw myself as a business person. I had come from college and then waiting tables. So I definitely started my real estate career being an order taker because that's what I always had done. I even remember, well, anyway, that's a whole squirrel subject. I just remember that I would go to an open house, I'd smile, and I'd be nice to people, and that was my way of meeting people. And so my failure that I wrote down was just that early days, I definitely did not have confidence in myself to put myself out there. Well, the reason that we hear that a lot, like I heard newer agents recently this week saying they want to be more aggressive, they want to be more confident. Well, I think that how you discover that confidence is from knowing what to say. So it always goes back to scripts and knowing when they say this objection, you give this handler. And people are like, I don't want to be scripted. I don't want to be scripted. But guess what? You're having a script by whatever your response is. It's just not a good script. So let's do one that has more questions inside of it to get you the desired result. So mine would be going too slow and not having confidence. And then how I found confidence later was being in the classroom and learning and then getting into action. And that's the hardest part. I think a lot of new agents are going to hide in the classroom because it's more comfortable. They're going to get ready to get ready to get ready. Like, they're not going to go on that appointment because they're not going to go call sellers, because then they don't have a listing presentation put together yet.
Yeah, I had a guy yesterday. He was asking me, and I jokingly told him, he was asking me about what his listing presentation should look like from a actual, like a visual of what it should look like. And I said, man, you're worrying about the wrong, like the content is what, like you showing up and going and being there is what matters. I don't know that the leave behind material. And I said, you're going to be ready to go on listing presentations in like 2020 or 2021 at the rate that you're going, because you're worried about what it looks like rather than you being really good at what you're talking to the client about. And so that probably piggybacks on some of the failures. Like, I think people here in Keller Williams, at least, lead generate for 3 hours a day or 4 hours a day and make 20 contacts. And I think that that's really overwhelming and scary. And I think that there are days, my first phone call, I get a listing appointment, and there's days I make 150 dials and I don't get anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a failure, and you have to be okay with like grinding it out and continuing to make phone calls and knowing that yesterday I didn't get a single appointment and I got 2 today. So it's just really just doing the things over and over. If you continue to do them, they'll show up. It's just, you have to be okay with it being boring. And
trust the process. So you're saying trust the process.
Yeah.
We dove deep yesterday in the class as well, with my team and then in the class, just at knowing the numbers. And so if what we know is for every 100 people we talk to, it's going to be 3.5 appointments. And I've proven this number for 5 years straight on just tracking numbers. And so just but if you can show someone that and they can understand that, for every 100 people you talk to, you're going to meet people 2 to 3 times. And out of 2 to 3 times, you will work with them 80% of the time, but that 80% of the time is not in 30 days. It may be 2 years before this person decides to finally, make a move, but it's the relationship that we have to build. And, Jenny, we talked about this before, that, fortune's in the follow-up, and it's just having the confidence and fortitude to stick in there and really just trust the process and know that it's going to work.
Yeah. Jess is back. Hey, that was perfect timing. We just can't hear you. We can see you good.
So while she's figuring that out.
I got it.
There you go.
Perfect.
This is good timing. So just what we've talked about so far, each of us is just sharing our early days of real estate, ways that we failed.
One of my biggest failures really was not knowing how to manage my calendar with friends and family, and really losing relationships that mattered to me because I didn't take the time to be present when I was with them, because I was always chasing that next sale. And I'd miss events with family because even though I was there, I'd show up late to that baseball game, or I'd be texting, or somebody in the stand would mention real estate, so I'd turn around and be talking to them and miss the play. And so really learning what was important after you miss some of those things, then you start taking stock into how you should really manage your time, work with, your phone, your calendar, and setting expectations with the clients and the other agents. That was huge for me. And one reason I switched to Keller Williams.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I think we can all relate. Mm-hmm. For sure. Something else that I when I was teaching a class yesterday to some other agents, most weren't with our company, just talking about the power of this book. And it can be so overwhelming if you don't know our language, and it can be just this monster. And for me, honestly, it's still tabbed, and this tab is so old. You can see how off colored it is. And it's just titled LG model. And honestly, pages 133 through 149 are really the only ones I have memorized. And for this reason, it's because that's how you build your business, like, period. There's no reason to have a conversation until you have a database, how you're going to market to them and talk to them, and then do it. And then we can have other conversations. Do you guys agree that it just always starts there?
Yeah. There's no problem lead generation can't solve.
Yeah. That would be a great failure that I know we all would agree is that how many times have we kept clients that were jerks, not motivated to buy or sell, had no money to buy or no money to sell, and we kept them out of desperation because we hadn't properly lead generated to have a pipeline full of more.
Right.
Wow.
Josh might be better at this.
What's that?
You might be better at this.
What?
Being able to let people go.
Oh, yes. I've learned over time. I used to hold on a lot. I don't anymore.
Yeah. Let it go. Let it go.
It's so liberating.
It is kind of nice. One of the other things I wrote down was, I think I realized this last year, either late 2017 or 2018, was I kind of have my master org chart on my wall in my office. So I look at it every day. There's days I look at it more. And so it's kind of my 5-year vision. I think I realized that I wrote it all out, and it's something that people can see in my office, but I don't know that I ever really shared it enough with the team. We've talked about it, but it's like, it's really broken out to the different pieces that I want, departments, things like that. And I think that's something that, on a lot of things, but I think that them knowing that there's a place for them if they grow out of their position, and this might be for somebody more advanced in the team building piece of it, but I think that that general thing goes along with what I've realized over the last couple of years is we have to constantly be talking about our systems and our commitments to our clients, as well as like all the internal stuff, like how our systems work, reminding people when we're doing client events or housewarming parties. Or one of my agents recently was like, wait, and she hasn't been, I've got 3 agents that have been on the team for 4 to 9 years. But I've got a newer agent that's been in the business for 3+ years. And she was like, wait, we do housewarming parties. And she kind of came in, 9 months ago or something like that. And I didn't really realize that she didn't know some of the things that we do. So it was good that she brought it up, but it was also kind of like, we really need to sit down when we're onboarding them and kind of maybe dig a little bit deeper on some of the things that we do as a team and how we love on our clients and the scripts that we have. And I know that's not all failure stuff, but it's stuff that I stepped back from my business and go, wow, I thought that they just saw me in here every day lead generating, and they don't understand some of the lead generation pieces. And I just assumed when they saw me in every day for the last, decade plus doing it, that they understood it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they miss some of that value proposition because we don't take the time to tell them enough, and they don't realize, our team, I didn't realize even when we're telling them, hey, we do all your Zillow reviews, your closing gifts, your all the marketing, all the, 2 times a month mailers, the multiple time a month client events, on top of all the marketing for the open houses and everything else. Because we don't tell them, they forget that that's a huge value add for them. They just think these things come in, but unless you remind people, you tell them, you remind them, you tell them again.
I think at least for me, I assume that they see, and
me too.
And, we know what assuming does. So yeah, I have to remind myself.
Well, I'll jump in and shout out to Tony, because just last time we all got together from one of our morning group texts, Tony shared that they just did this as a team. So I've shared that over in Your Journey with Jenny Facebook group, where I've got Tony Baroni team, every detail of everything that happens to buyers and sellers. And so whenever they started doing that with the team, they realized, like Josh just said, like, oh, we do that. And so what do you guys think? Would this be like a once a year before the team planning day, you all get together and crunch it all out once again, even though to us we do it every year, but then we forget there's new team members that may not know all of that?
I think it has to be a little bit more frequent than once a year, because there's so many moving pieces to the things that a team does, and you won't cover it all in a once a year meeting. And so I think what's more probable is maybe just an education piece, small piece once a week that you go through at the team meeting, or, we formed an ALC committee recently. And honestly, I texted you the guys this earlier. It's been the best thing that we've ever done. So we have our own ALC, and to watch them start to own and come up with the education for our team themselves is way better than me doing it. But it's what they determined is it's a weekly thing. Let's just cover one small piece of our operations manual, and as we go along. And you know what? When we are done, we'll start over. And so any two new team members, as they're joining on board, they'll catch some part of it, but at some point they'll learn it. I make sure we kind of touch on it all.
Yeah.
Or doing like meeting quarterly, just to have a business day, even if it's a half a day, meeting quarterly just to go over, hey guys, these are the new things we've implemented this quarter. These are what we intend to implement next quarter. Do you guys have any ideas? Just to touch base, and there's new team members joining or leaving, you want to make sure you fill them in.
Yeah. Well, I like that. Can you think of any other early days pains or failures that pushed you through to where you are today?
Not firing fast enough always. That's always my problem.
What about firing yourself out of roles that you shouldn't be in? What about that one?
Explain, Jenny.
Yeah.
Elaborate. Tell us.
I'm just speaking in general, like our early days in real estate when we were not knowing probably our 20% of what's most important that produces the most result, because my natural behavioral style is one of setting up systems and checklists and operations. And so that was always easier for me to work on than to actually talk to people. You guys may not relate to that.
Nope.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'd rather poke my eyes out. Every time you text me a new spreadsheet, I'm like, I shame myself, and then I'm like, no way.
I
love spreadsheets.
I love you all, and I know that you are not like most real estate agents. I think that most real estate agents are probably, if we're looking at the DISC assessment, there's definitely some I, because that allows them to at least do a little bit of this, and then probably a lot of S. And so I'm just going to, that's my assumption, because that's what I was in my early days. So if you are an IS and relate to me, let me know. And the rest, this is why we hang out with our really fast friends, right?
What are your makeups? Just curious. I'm sure I know, but Josh and Tim.
Come on.
I'm a 99D. Not sure if that's obvious or not. 99D.
98I, 97D.
I am the same as you, Tim.
2C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like a.
You know that, Jess?
Yeah.
I'll send a new one to all of us, and we can all retake it and see. I think we do evolve over time.
That's not going to happen, Jenny.
Yeah.
Hey, well, my D went up last time, so I was very excited. All right, let's move into the early days of starting to build a team, because you realize you shouldn't be doing things you were doing, like making flyers or setting up inspections and things like that. What were some of the early growing of a team failures that you remember?
Specifically, I mean, one, I think it comes to clarity and understanding what my actual job was. And so I didn't have clarity on it. Therefore, my communication was poor to, my first few hires on who was responsible for what pieces. And so it took years before I figured that out. I'm not very bright, so Josh can appreciate that. It just wasn't clear. I did not have clarity until I had an assistant. I was doing assistant work, and just understanding the fact that if it wasn't income producing, I should have been handing it off. Thought I was a little too good. I thought I could do it better than the people I hired, and that was not accurate. So it's just having faith in the people that you hire and letting them succeed. I failed at that.
Yeah, I mean, how many times did all of us take Recruit Select, RSTLM, and do we still kind of suck at that sometimes?
I literally took it 17 times.
Took it 12.
Yeah. So
So we all failed that class.
But here's the thing, Jenny, you've been in the business for 18 years.
Yeah.
You found out really what you like to do like in the last maybe 3 years, and you taught it for the last 2
years.
So I think we just have to stay in our lane. Like at the end of the day, I'm kind of like y'all jokingly say I'm like the highest paid ISA ever. Like I like that piece of it. I love the listing side of the business. I don't want to have anything to do with paperwork. I may or may not have lost earnest money before in the past and things like that. So everybody on my team knows I don't touch paperwork. Like I suck at it. I'm not good at it. I've never been good at it. I know what things need to be organized and systems wise, but I'm good at the relationship. So I bring in the business. Not that other people on the team can't, but I think you just really have to figure out, most agents get in the business that are, not everybody's like a high D or an ID type personality. That doesn't mean you're not going to be successful. I think you just have to build around you at a really high level.
Yeah.
So.
I'm still figuring out what I want to be when I grow up.
You should get a food truck.
That's actually the biggest failure right there.
Have it on my whiteboard, my list of failures. That is the only one written in red.
Can we all point out that Tim is only the smartest one out of all of us with his sign placement? I just want to say that. Kudos, buddy.
Oh, you mean those?
Oh, convenient.
Yes, before you got on the call, he actually was placing them.
Yeah, he's smart. I hear and I can't even connect to the internet.
Well, we're moving out of this office, so anyway, the signs remain.
Tim, how old is that picture?
That picture?
1997.
21 years.
It's 2011.
Like the glamour shots.
So, do you want me to touch on my failure of the food truck?
Yeah. Now.
While you were a real estate agent. Yes, please tell us.
We'll save it. Save it?
Now.
No, it just goes to the one thing. It just goes to the one thing, and staying in your lane and doing the thing that matters the most. And when you don't have clarity on what that is, we can get distracted. As real estate agents, it's the shiny objects. For me, it was a shiny food truck. I thought that my world would be better by opening a mobile food service. It was great for publicity, but I'll make a long story short. By the time I got rid of it, I had lost $60,000, and I'm sure more than that was the cost, the lost opportunities in real estate. So the business launched, was doing well, and it did well as long as I was involved in it. But it was a forever balancing act between real estate, food truck.
Did anybody
15-hour days? What's that?
Tell you that it was maybe not a good idea?
Josh, no.
Josh. And 15-hour days were the norm, 7 days a week, between trying to run a real estate business, my team. Life was not good. And, it was, in calling them biggest fail, if you will, but it's probably the best education that I've ever had. You couldn't have taught me that in college. I had to learn that I was mortal. I couldn't do it all. I didn't have all the answers. And when I realized that, when I succumbed to that and I actually sold the truck, it was, I'm glad that I learned that lesson younger in life, because I could have gotten older and made a much costlier mistake. So I've really used that to my advantage. I went full force into real estate after that, and focused on profitability and having balance and quality of life. And it's been an upward trajectory ever since.
So I want to add this in, and it may be a little taboo or it may be touchy for some. This kind of reminded me of just even multi-level marketing, of being a full-time real estate professional and adding in other sales. I feel, my opinion is that it could get confusing for your people, your databases. Like, are you this or are you that? Remember in the early days, I don't know if you guys still waited tables when you got into real estate. I remember feeling lost, because how would people that I'm waiting tables and I'm taking their order, how would they then see me as a professional to also help them buy a house? I think that maybe people could relate to that level. What do you guys think on these other avenues of income?
Well, I think that some people have the capability of doing it, some multitasking at a better level. I am not good at that. So I'm going to advise against it, but I'm sure I know there's people that are appraisers and real estate agent or doing other things, and it perhaps works for them. I just feel like they're hitting levels of achievement, hitting a ceiling that they could break through if they had all their eggs, all the focus.
But you can't name one of them that's doing it at a high level. Like you can't name a real estate agent that has an amazing business that's also a high level stager or interior designer or a mortgage lender, or they might have 2 or 3 titles, but you only get to do one thing at a really high level. You can do other things that you're passionate about. There's no way, there's no way to do 2 of them and you just can't do it all. I don't believe that you can do 2 of them at once. I think you can do them. I think you can do them one after the other. I just think you can do them simultaneously. Yeah.
We had the market shift in Connecticut, and actually we lost a bunch of team members because one of the team members we had used to be in a multi-level marketing company, decided to get back in. They were only with us for a few months anyways, but then they convinced a bunch of other team members that they needed to do that too. So they all got out. We're going to do real estate on their own and do multi-level marketing.
How'd that work out for them?
I haven't seen, great results, but again, it's early on, so maybe that'll change. I don't know. I'm not here to judge, but I can tell you, I know for me, it doesn't work well if I take my eyes off the prize. It's why I've never done it.
Yeah, and that may be their one thing.
Right. If it is their one thing, then go for it. And that guy was going back to do it as his one thing, which he had done it for years. Totally get it. And usually those people, if it's going to be their one thing, that's great. But the ones underneath them, not always.
So let me go back a step, because this made me think about, at the beginning of this book that we all know so well, it definitely starts with laying the foundation of knowing your big why. And we know over time that can change, or I've also found that many agents, they just can't figure out what that thing is. And so many struggle with it. So do you feel today, we've all been in the business long enough, do you feel more clear now on your one thing? Because we can say your one thing over and over again, and if people aren't attaching some passion or purpose or why behind picking up the phone and calling people they don't know every day, then they're not going to have the same desires that we do to crush it and talk to people. What do you guys think on that?
Your one thing can also shift. Like your one thing can be 2 or 3 things that are going on, or it can shift over time. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I've got clarity on what my one thing is, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to, there's things that in my business take time away from that one thing occasionally, because it needs to be done or whatever that is. But I think it can shift over time.
Yeah.
You want to share?
Specifically?
Yeah.
Like for me, my one thing is like building relationships and bringing in business. I'm just saying that I think that people's one thing can shift. Like Jenny owns the fact that she's her director of operations for her team. That wasn't her one thing 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
My one thing has really been the same the whole time I've been in the business. And people can say whatever they want. At the end of the day, what you said earlier, Jess, is lead generation, doing it correctly, literally fixes everything.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. You can hire more people if you're lead generating at the level that you're supposed to be doing it and putting in the right scripts and the right questions and all those things. It fixes everything.
Right. I agree. I think when you have that one thing, when you tie a big why behind it, that gives you the drive to get that one thing done. So unless you have that purpose tied behind it, I know for me, and you guys know this, my husband had an accident a bunch of years ago, and my big driver is to keep that man safe. If I could keep him on a shelf, I would. Probably not the right thing, but it's my one thing. And I just want to make sure he's safe, my babies are safe, and I can take care of anybody that needs my help whenever they need my help.
Yeah. That's good. All right. Let's go on to now. What are you failing at right now?
Oh, where do we start?
Everything.
I have a fresh one.
Let's hear it.
I have a fresh one. And Jenny, you know this one, and I'll probably get a bit worked up when I start talking about it. So inspecting what you expect, but that's a broad category. I'll get specific for you. We expect leads. Let's just take leads, for example, that come in the door that they're followed up with. I assume that, we had been doing a pretty good job about that. And so once we started our inside sales division, we started calling we made it a goal to call every lead we possibly could and just determine where they were at. And we found 48 missed opportunities for people who had purchased a home either we had met with or that we had spoken with, and to the tune of $9 million and about $283,000 in commissions. So
Where did you find that?
this was in our
Not
database.
followed up.
Leads that were not followed up with property plan. We didn't have leads on proper drip plans, and so you know what, $283,000 is a lot of money, and these were leads that we already had. Now, would we have converted every one of those? No, but I think the number they put on it was a conservative number. The fact that
4 million.
I mean, well, the thing is, we found 16 more since the year's begun. And, what it did was it forced me to change my standards. There is, the standards have been written. They've been signed in .loop. They're printed out. They're posted in the office. They're in every employee file. No lead left behind. Jenny, you talked about this. But that means there's a drip plan for every lead. We have phone conversations. We don't need more leads. We just need to do a better job. There's no bad lead. There's only bad follow-up.
Yes.
So 48, 16, you do the math, a lot of money, a lot of lives we didn't get the opportunity to make an impact on. A lot of people we didn't get to add to our database in the proper way. So that's it's pretty painful.
Yeah. You guys relate to that one?
Yeah.
The worst part is when someone leaves the team, that's when we actually go inspect more than we should have before.
Right.
And that's whenever I'm like, oh, there's $80,000. Oh, there's, whether you convert them all or not, just the simple ones that are raising their hand that wasn't followed up with, you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
There was so much opportunity right here. And that's not all the ones I don't know about.
Right. So the reality is there are clients that are that it's not a lead, that's people in our sphere, people in our lives that are buying homes that we're not having conversations with, not following up with. So it was a big aha and a learning moment. And, it'll make us better at the end of the day, but it's still pretty painful. What's that, 64 caught opportunities being missed?
That's the ones you know about.
Right.
64.
That's the ones you know about.
I know.
So there's probably like 100.
Yeah.
Not to rub it in. I'm just saying. So one of the girls from my office just went to Sync last week in Atlanta, and she brought back all these amazing nuggets and masterminding with all these different agents around the country that are using Commissions Inc. at a really high level. And kind of the same thing. I mean, we're starting to put all these people on drip campaigns and the behavioral texting and all these things, and we're already getting great conversations back. But I mean, we had out of the people in the lead pool, we had 400 people that were either getting a call or a drip out of over 4,500. Those were just the ones in the pool. So 10%. And it's like, dude, if we suck and we convert at a really low level, I mean, there's no reason we shouldn't be able to each, if we set it up properly, have at least one more deal per agent per month. I mean, just do the heavy, like set it up on the front end and let it do the heavy lifting for you.
So I'll tell you what was impactful for us. Another thing we changed with that, a category in our database of lost business. And we're going to sit down at the end of the first quarter and identify, we're starting to quantify that. And we're going to sit down with each team member and say, here's what you lost out on. I can't think of anything that's going to make a bigger impact on that. I mean, I'll throw up, but
I think
no.
yeah, it's totally the out of sight, out of mind. We databases are amazing, or CRMs are amazing at keeping us on task. However, you got to open it up and look at it. And how are we, are we doing it? Are we empowering our agents to do it? Are we empowering our admin team to follow up with the agents that haven't followed up? It's just all of the, so now it's a weekly conversation on our team meeting. Here's the pipeline. Let's talk about all these people every week so that no lead is left behind, because that's everybody's, not only their pocketbook, it's families that we didn't get to help, and we're good at helping people. And that's the conversation with the team, is they deserve to get to work with us because we're nice and we're going to help them through this process. My other recent failure is just not getting out of my way fast enough, getting out of the way for others. And just probably because I had fear in my mind that it's either like, if I give them too much power, what if they leave me? I mean, these are just little thoughts that pop in my brain, the limiting beliefs of, well, what if they leave me? Well, then the affirmation is, so what if they do? I have to keep adding value that they'll never want to leave me. The other thing is just the money piece. If we're not running our business like a business, then how can we teach them to do the same and to treat it as a business as well? And then also the big one that I think we all may share is that it's just, and this is even at the beginning of this, like, they're not going to work with anyone else but me. And that whole myth that we tell ourselves that I'm the best at that thing. Can you guys think of ways that you hold on to much control still in areas that you shouldn't?
We don't have.
Wait, what was the question?
Can you think of areas that you're still today, although you're leveraged, you have people, what are you still hanging on to, Jess, your face? What are we still hanging on to?
Into me. Because I already feel it coming from someone.
Yeah, what are we still hanging on to?
So the one thing that we have a database, great. We don't touch it the way that we need to touch it. We do mailers, we do client events and all those things, right? But we are not systematic about it. So it's been the thing that I have guilted myself about the most, and want to do the most. And yet it's a thing with my dyslexic brain that really throws me off and gives me the most anxiety, to be honest with you, because I think I have to do this. Now there's team members that can help. And yet, obviously, I know the most people in that database, right? So it's going to be easier for me to clean it up. Yet there's still people that have been our clients that aren't even in that database yet. So getting that set up the right way, right? No, listen, hey, I'm being vulnerable and I'm being honest with you. I get it, but this is the truth. So I'm going to share and just be open with everybody, because not everybody's perfect. I certainly am not, and we do a hell of a lot of business. So these are things, and this is what I need to work on this year. And so we're doing it yesterday. I swear to God, I'm entering stuff in, putting it in, and I'm like, why am I doing this? And I'm sitting there and I'm just getting mad, because it's not in my wheelhouse. I'm trying to figure out ways. I still haven't gotten an email from your assistant, but I'm still trying to figure out ways to categorize or do whatever I want for the various things that we do. And literally I had my coaching call at noon, and I'm talking to Drew, and he's like, why don't you just categorize met and unmet? And I'm like,
yeah. That's my
why am I being so stupid and overthinking all of this and trying to, break everything up way too much? And it just can be that simple, met and unmet, and then break it down more later if you want, once you get into it. But just get them in, do met and unmet to start.
Yeah.
After that, you can break out whatever you want, but start with something. And Jenny, do you know how many people we have in the database?
A lot.
Without having all of our clients in yet. And we have a good portion, and without having all the expireds, because I haven't added all those expireds I call every single day, we have 5,700 people in there. And I'm like, I'm sure there's a bunch of garbage in there too, but
yeah,
I'm like, oh my God, there's so much money sitting in here.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing, Tim, I'm sure I probably have a lot more than you even in there.
Yeah, that's what we did. Last year, our goal was to grow our database. And then this year, our goal was to maximize the amount of business out of our database. Right. Just shifting our thinking on that.
Right. I just want to have that database tweaked, and it's never going to be perfect because it's always going to be a growing and breathing thing, but tweaked enough that I can feel good and go, okay, well, this is who we have, and these are how many Mets we have in there. Makes me sick to my stomach. I'm like, oh.
hurts.
Yes.
Well, let's just while we're on the database topic, and we have a big event coming up with our company. Let's talk about an agent referral database, because all of us do agent referrals is a big segment of our business. So how do you guys have that database set up, and how do you touch them? Oh, Jess.
Kelly, Facebook, and I love everybody, and I'm on Facebook like crazy.
There you go.
We have a database and we send out a newsletter monthly, just keeping them to speed. We did 28 agent referrals in 2018, and we've got a goal to do 40 in 2019. So I need to be more intentional about growing that database. Yes, we know a lot of people. Yes, they're on social media, but how effective am I being at making sure that they remember, Louisiana referrals to send into our team? I give myself a C minus. I think Josh does a pretty good job.
We do a pretty good job, but I still think there's lots of room that we can.
So what are the things that you're doing?
So it's a combination. I mean, it's a whole system of stuff. I mean, we send postcards out to agents that have our Middle Tennessee logo on it with the areas that we serve. We send out actually right before family reunion, I'll have sent out my first video newsletter to agents. And then we do a regular monthly newsletter that's about just things and trying to add a document to it or some kind of system that has worked in our business. It's being on panels. It's taking online, offline, meeting people, adding value. I mean, I do a lot of phone calls with people that just, I was in their place at one point, and I feel like it's kind of an obligation to help them get to the next level. There's a whole system for me of doing stuff. There's birthdays on Facebook. I mean, there's just a whole series of things. And so we kind of have ours segmented out a little bit different for our agent referrals, and our agent database is just set up a little bit different. It's not in with our regular database. So, and then we have we have it segmented out also with like team leaders and different things like that. So,
what do you use for your agent database?
So agents that have actually referred us business, whether they've started working with them or not, are in our actual top producer. But our other piece it's just in a separate, like we've got it in a Google Doc.
That's what we do. Okay.
Yeah, because we segment it out with the areas they serve, and because we want to be able to ultimately not have to rely on, like we've made those relationships. So we have their zip codes, their cities, their phone number, everything that they serve. So we can dig into our database of people that we already know, like, and trust, rather than having to search around and spend a bunch of time. So.
Awesome. You guys want to give a little plug of something you have going on in a couple weeks?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Go, Tim.
Go, Josh.
We're having a party.
Yes, it is a party, basically. So we did this a couple years ago in New Orleans. Tim and I are doing a networking event on Saturday, the 6th of February, at Cochon in New Orleans. So anybody that's there, we can, if we've got a Facebook page for it and a link for tickets. So it's a lot of food and drinks and lots of agents to network with, so you can get more agent referrals.
Yeah.
So Tim, let's talk about the food, okay? Because food is important to me. So let's hear what I get. Let's hear what I get to eat.
Food's important to this guy. So, Chef Donald Link is pretty infamous down in New Orleans. He's got a number of restaurants, but Cochon is one of their, just flagships. Like you can't go wrong. So we're gonna have some amazing food. It's a great venue. It's really close to the convention center. The actual event itself is called Mecca Agent Mixer. So if you search it on Facebook, you'll find it.
I'll post it.
Yeah, you'll post it. Okay. And but yeah, food, the drink, and it's really geared. We're giving a portion back to KW Cares, and but the concept of this is to actually have a good time, but be really intentional about networking and growing that part of your business.
And I wanted to, if everybody or anybody else, if you guys have any panels or sessions that you guys are doing during family reunion, we can also share those here as well. Because I'm going to be coming from doing a session to your party. So will you guys wait for me to have any food or drinks?
Probably not, but we'll see you there.
Nope.
Yeah. Yes.
We'll save you a seat.
Oh, so you're not
Yeah.
coming to my session is what you're saying. Sure.
Sorry, Jenny.
Database, and will I get the list?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. If you need anything or if anybody watches this later on and has questions for us specifically, everyone will be tagged in this and you can reach out to us, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
See ya. Stop live stream. Stop recording.